my balls. Suck my balls.
How would you children like to suck on my chocolate salty balls?
Oh, you mean like a chocolate candy?
No, I mean my balls.
Ladies and the gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of
Suck my balls. Suck my balls.
SMB,
Suck my balls. Suck my balls.
a South Park review.
Suck my balls.
I'm your host in the heat and I can't
Suck
be
my
beat.
balls.
I'm your guy who's high where the air is so dry.
Suck my balls.
Ya boy,
Suck my
MSG.
balls.
You can follow us as a podcast by going to
Suck my
linktr.ee/SouthParkPod. Normally I'm joined by two guys who like to break down South Park with me, but they are unavailable, so this week I am trudging along solo. But I gotta tell you, this is one of my favorite episodes of Season 12, and if you haven't heard it, you're gonna know it. Now I'm gonna let you know. This is SMB number 183, and we are covering Season 12, Episode number 13, Elementary School Musical. It's going to be fun. Let's get right into it. So first off, if you've never heard of the High School Musical craze that happened in the 2000s, later 2000s, I guess we're in the early 2000s, but the later, before the teens, 2008, right? 2007, 2008, in that time frame, 2006, 2008, I guess would be more specific. The High School Musical craze took over the Disney Channel, and then it led into theaters, and it was crazy. Everybody apparently was singing these in schools. Fortunately, I had graduated high school in 2006, so I never had to experience anybody breaking out in song and dance. But I had, I imagine, if it was one of the largest, movies, I think they said in this episode, High School Musical 3 was or High School Musical 2, it grossed the largest on DVD sales at that time. So that's crazy. So, yeah, it took over. People were singing and dancing and enjoying it. And if you did, good for you. I did not. And our boys in South Park, well, they're reluctant to come around. As Elementary School is the 13th episode of Season 12 and the 180th overall episode of South Park. It aired November the 12th, 2008. The boys must embrace this latest fad to hit South Park Elementary or risk losing their status as, some cute kids in school. So here's how this episode starts out. It starts out with the lunchroom. Typical day. Boys are eating. Cartman's ripping on Kenny as he normally does, making fun of the fact that he only has a bologna sandwich. He's like, hey, he's only got a bologna sandwich and bread. They're not even condiments. So he's just straight ripping him. But then Butters comes in and announces that he's going to go see High School Musical 3 again. And the boys question, what is High School Musical 3? And after going around the, bantering with, Clyde and Token and Jimmy and everyone, they're like, wait, how did you miss the fact that High School Musical and all this came out? Where have you guys been? And Craig just sits up and he goes, Peru, which I thought was pretty funny. Just a nice little call back there. Yeah, they realize they're clueless, though, about this newest fad. And then all of a sudden, several fourth graders and a third grader named Bryden Guillermo begin singing in the cafeteria. And at first, Cartman's like, stupid girls. And then all the guys break out and dance. So the boys realize they got to go home and they got to watch this movie. So before we get to them going home and watch this movie, let's jump into our first clip here. Here's the boys in that cafeteria and their reaction to the kids breaking song and dance.
Look at Kenny's lunch. A bologna sandwich and water. God damn, your family's poor, dude. Hey, you fellas want to go see High School Musical 3 tonight? Bunch of kids from school are going to go see it again. What's High School Musical 3?
You know, the sequel to High School Musical 1 and 2.
What's High School Musical 1 and 2? There's not even condiments on his bologna sandwich.
What's High School Musical 1 and... Dude, it's only the most popular thing with kids in our age group. Yeah, where the hell have you guys been?
Peru.
Where the hell have you guys been? Like I said, for a nice little callback there with Craig. Now, if we jump ahead just shortly here, we're going to see the kids now dancing and singing.
Together we'll stay. And every kid in school is special in their own way.
Dude, girls are such fags.
Oh yeah, boys are special in their own way. Girls.
So as you can see and hear there, if you're listening on the podcast, the boys and the girls break out into a song and dance. And unfortunately, this leaves our boys clueless. Now, back at home, they start watching these movies and they realize, dude, these are hella lame. Like, this is cool. Like, I don't want to be a part of this world anymore, essentially is what it comes down to. Even Cartman says, I'm going to go home and I'm going to kill myself if this is cool, guys. Good night. Because he's just so distraught over the fact that this is what's popular. And at this point, the boys, that being Stan, Kyle, and Kenny, evermore, make a pact that, look, we will never, ever get down with this. We're never going to go ahead and join this fad and be part of this music phenomenon that was High School Musical, which, of course, is the underlining subtext and story of this whole episode, is the peer pressure that comes with school and how these kids have to deal with it in regards to joining a fad and doing something that they really don't want to volunteer for. But if they want to stay cool and have friends, they eventually fall in line, which is just interesting. Maybe also more of a take on society as well. We all feel like we have to fall in line. Otherwise, we're not living the dream of what's expected that's been purported to us by whatever type of political, social, cultural influence that you have in your life. So now I'm getting a little off topic here, but I think it all ties together. Let's get into a clip here. This is now with the boys. They're back at home. They're watching the episode, and they're going to come to the conclusion that, man, I really, really don't want to do this.
This is cool.
They just released part 3 in theaters and it made $80 million opening weekend.
Well, I'm out, guys. If this is what's cool now, I think I'm done. I no longer have any connection to this world. I'm gonna go home and kill myself. Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye, friend.
I don't care how popular being like these kids becomes. I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it either. Kenny?
No fucking way I'm doing it, he says. So that is, of course, your clip there with the boys articulating the fact that they are not going to buy in to this fad. Moving back now, the next day at school, the boys find that everyone again is singing in class. Apparently Eric Cartman has decided to try and commit suicide. They don't show this, but he induced carbon monoxide while sleeping in his mother's car with the engine turned on, but failed since the hybrids don't do the trick anymore. And that was the next day at school when he walked in and he saw the boys. And then, as I mentioned, everyone is singing in class again. And this, of course, makes Stan and Kyle and everyone like, this is ridiculous. Because, like, Mr. Garrison comes into the class and he introduces a topic that's about the East Side versus West Side. And the kids break out, East Side, West Side, whatever side you're on. So they break out into this song and dance. And this, of course, makes Cartman very angry. Then, during the break, I guess you'd say between classes or maybe in recess, whatever you want to call it, Stan is kind of fearing that his girlfriend, Wendy, is getting close with this kid named Bryden because of while this breakdown is happening inside his 4th grade class, this Bryden kid once again just walks by and kicks open the 4th grade door and he just starts singing and he just joins them and everyone's apparently cool with it. So Stan's afraid that, Wendy wants to be with him. So he goes and tells her, and she's like, no, Stan, I don't have a shot with Wendy. I don't have a shot with Bryden. You don't have anything to worry about. And not really reassuring, but I guess to Wendy's credit, she is emphasizing the fact that she believes that Bryden is so popular, he can have any girl he wants. Why would she want her? So lowering herself to Stan is, I guess, the underlying thought there from Wendy Testaberger. Well, let's get back into the clip now, and we'll take a look at here what happens with Stan and in the hallway, as well as when the boys come into the classroom itself.
I thought you were going to kill yourself.
I tried. Went to sleep in my mom's car in the garage with the engine turned on. But you didn't die? Freaking hybrids, man. They just don't do the trick anymore.
All right, so now school starts.
All right, kids in seats. Today we are going to discuss the Berlin Wall. This was a wall in Germany that actually separated the communist East Side and the democratic West Side.
East side, west side, whatever side that you're on. As long as we care about each other, we can still have some fun.
Man.
Don't sweat what you might get by seeing the other side as a threat. East side, right or wrong, we gotta learn to
East side, west side, doesn't matter to me. We gotta learn to power through and set each other free.
Don't care what other people wear or feel like there's a burning inside you.
All right, so that was that scene. Now here's Stan. He's in the hallway, and as I mentioned, he's going to confront Wendy about the fact that he believes that Wendy maybe should be with Bryden. Jimmy's about to bust out into a song dance, and Stan's like, no, I'm not doing this.
Just stop.
All right,
Wendy? Hey, Stan. Look, I just want you to know, if you want to, be with that Bryden kid, then you should.
You should.
What? I mean, I see the way you two are together, and I don't want to be in your way.
Stan, that's ridiculous.
It is?
I would never leave you for Bryden.
Really?
No way, that'd be stupid. I wouldn't have a chance with Bryden.
I
He
would
could be with any girl he wants.
have a chance at Bryden.
There you go. Feel better, pal?
No, I don't think Jimmy, I don't believe that he feels better now after that. That was not something that would make anybody feel better when your girlfriend basically tells you that you're her second, third choice, whatever it is. So now Stan is uneasy, believing that Bryden's going to develop a crush on Wendy. So he talks to Bryden in hopes of kind of directing him away from Wendy. And as he's probing him and asking him, if he's interested in other things, he comes to find out that Bryden actually doesn't like singing and dancing. He would prefer to play basketball instead. However, Brian admits that his overly flamboyant father is a theater-crazed metrosexual and refuses to allow him to play a sissy sport. But Stan convinces Bryden to stand up for himself. So Bryden goes home, but Bryden's father slaps his mother after she suggests that Bryden should be able to play basketball. And Mr. Guillermo's very weak flamboyant slaps are depicted as a painful deterrent here. It's like nobody wants to do it because his slaps are they're microaggression, right? Microaggression slaps. So you got some of these people not understanding if this guy is going to go further. No one's really throwing a punch here, which is kind of funny. So we'll jump back here into that part of the episode when we go home and we meet the Brydens. The Brydens are a hell of a gang, I'll tell you.
Sit up properly, Bryden. You know how strict your father is about posture. All right, dear, dinner's ready.
Okay, let's eat.
Guillermo, as he danced in front of the mirror there.
Dad, I need to talk to you about something.
Ooh, that sounds emotional. What is it, son? What's on your mind? Whatever it is, your dad has the time.
No, Dad, can we just talk?
So, of course, as you can see there, he likes to sing instead of talking. Now, Brian's trying to tell him, look, I want to play basketball.
Don't you even think about it. If I had a jock for a son, I'd be the laughingstock of the men's choir club.
Choir club.
It's my life, Dad.
His life, he's right.
Don't make me slap you.
I threatens to
I will
slap him.
slap your face so super hard.
Super hard. Bryden gets up and leaves, and now his mother...
I am the man of this house. You disrespect me and you're gonna get slapped.
Maybe you should let him try it.
What did you say, woman?
You aren't being fair.
That's it. I'm gonna slap you.
No, please.
I slap you. I slap you. I slap you. Slapping you silly because you disrespected me.
Good old Mr. Guillermo. So the next day at school, Stan prods Bryden some more to find out if he's going to join the basketball team. And he tells him, well, I tried to talk to my dad, but then he beat up my mom. Stan's like, no, you have to stand up to him. Come on. So he drags him over to the basketball team anyway by going up to the coach who's named Mr. Garrett. Now, Bryden's father, though, is going to find out as he gets Bryden. Stan convinces Bryden to just, shoot some hoops at recess. So he goes over and he's shooting hoops at recess. And apparently, Mr. Guillermo was driving by. And as he's driving by, he didn't notice that Bryden was out on he wasn't out at recess, on the playground doing musical skits and singing. So it concerned him. And he marches into the school to find that Bryden is, of course, playing basketball. He slaps the crap out of Mr. Garrett and then drags Bryden away. And this will eventually lead to Stan taking matters even further. But before we get there, we'll jump into this scene here of Mr. Bryden storming into... We'll get to the scene here now as Mr. Guillermo storms into the school after finding Bryden playing basketball.
Mr. Garrett, this kid wants to join the basketball team.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Ba-bow, ba-bow, ba-bow!
Dad, I was just messing around.
I drove by the school and saw kids on the playground doing a music number, and you weren't there! You're here in the sports gym shooting basket hoops!
Basket hoops.
Hey, your kid is really good at this.
Don't talk to me, stupid jock asshole!
Go easy on him, huh?
You know what this means?
Garrett put his hand
it means you're about to get slapped.
Pathetically.
So you better shut up.
If he wants to play ball, you should let him.
And he
I'll
slapped.
do it. I'll slap the shit out of you.
He's just a kid.
He slapped.
You don't tell me how to raise my son. I'll slap it again.
Dad, stop.
You're trying to turn my son into a little asshole sports person like yourself. There's another slap.
There's another slap.
Maybe you'll think next time you act, you slap it. Slap it.
Stop it.
Ow, Dad, you're hurting me.
Shut up, Ryden.
Shut up, Ryan.
What's going on here, Mr.
Last-
Queermo? Get out of my way, Mackie. You want a piece of this?
And he comes back here.
Slap
Like,
everyone in this goddamn school if I have to.
he leaves and then comes back and slaps back again. Good stuff. Good stuff. So now Stan is going to actually report this to Child Services. So Child Services comes over and Bryden's father slaps the crap out of them until they flee. And this is, of course, going to lead to Stan feeling like he can't really do anything to stop this from happening. And then he's going to find the boys playing video games, that being Cartman, Kyle, and Kenny with Scott Magton. I'm Scott Magton. I have diabetes and I have a lisp. And he's going to try and convince them at first, hey, let's do this. Let's join the fad. And Kyle points out to him, dude, you're only doing this because you don't want to lose your girlfriend. And he's like, okay, no. Okay, that's true. But come on, let's just do this. We have to give in. So they don't give in at first. But eventually, they will. They will, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's jump back into another clip here as we find out what happens when Stan marches home to find his friends playing video games and tries to convince them, come on, dude, let's just do it.
Yeah, nice. You guys, this High School Musical thing isn't gonna go away. I think we better just get on board with it.
What? Are you crazy?
No way, dude.
We promised each other we would never do that, remember?
Whoa. I know, but I think we're really starting to become outcasts at school. We're losing all our credibility. I mean, look at who you guys are hanging out with now. Scott Malkinson, for Christ's sake.
What's so bad about hanging out with me?
Shut up, Scott Malkinson. I'm Scott Malkinson. I've got a lisp and I've got diabetes.
Hey, don't make fun of my diabetes.
Don't make fun of my diabetes. I'm Scott Malkinson.
Okay, I just wanted to play it up until that point just to hear Kenny laugh because his laugh is so funny, pointing out the fact that Cartman believes that Scott Malkinson is lame because he's got diabetes and he's got, I'm Scott Malkinson, I have diabetes and I have lit. All right, moving on from there, despite having vowed against it, Stan does at school try to join the trend of singing by singing Someone's in the Kitchen, like an old folk song that's kind of off key, and he kind of makes a fool of himself. And while that's going on here, Bryden, of course, is still dealing with his father, and he finally stands up to his dad even further as his mom runs in and says, your son's running away, Bryden's running away, and Bryden punches his dad in the face, and then his mom punches him in the face after realizing that she doesn't have to take the slaps anymore. So that's how that resolution is going to come in their family before we get to Bryden's arc here. It still isn't over. But Bryden decides to stand up for himself and punches back against his abusive father. And his mother joins him. So we'll jump into those two clips here in regards to Stan singing off key because it's kind of cringe. And then we'll show Bryden standing up to his old man. So before we do that, of course, I want to show quickly what happens when he invites the Child Protective Services people and they actually come in.
Do it. Do it.
So they come in.
Hello, Bryden. My name is Mr. Kelly. We just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes, if that's okay, and just maybe... Yeah, there it is! Slapped you! You probably think I'm finished, huh? No, there's another one!
Oh my God!
Don't worry, bitch. I didn't forget about you.
There's
a slap for you! Slap, slap, slap!
Now he's going slap happy.
Yeah, there you go. Here's a little reach around the back of the head slap.
Oh, right, right.
Oh God, please! You have to get away! He won't ever stop!
Oh, I'm going slap happy. I'm going slap, slap happy. Slappity slapping you, teaching you a lesson for coming in my house.
All right, now we jump over into school, and Stan, of course, as I mentioned, was worried the fact that Wendy might join up with Bryden instead, so he's going to start to try and sing, but it's not good.
What would I do? This kid just won't stop. And now they're going to be in a show together? Jesus, it's all over for me. They'll probably even have a kissing scene. What did I do to deserve this? And what am I supposed to do now? Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Strumming on the old banjo and going fee-fi, fiddly-I-O.
And makes a complete arse of himself there. Now we go back at home, and as I mentioned, Bryden is about to run away from home.
Hear the rhythm. Now is the time.
Mr. Guillermo here.
It's time to go to bed. Yes, time to call it a day. You can reach the stars as...
Oh, please, you have to do something.
What are you interrupting me for?
It's our son. He's running away.
What?
What? I don't
Going
know.
on here? What's this all about? What do you think you're doing?
Dad, I'm sick of you trying to always...
No, sing it!
No, I'm sick of singing.
Can you believe it? What'd he just say? What's the matter with kids these days?
And now he's going to stand up to him.
Just go right back to your room and sing a ballad, mister.
Just let me go.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Make my day.
You get upstairs, or I will slap you until there's little red handprints all over your face.
Right in the nose.
Oh my God, what was that? Did you see that? Oh my God, it hurts so bad. What the H is going on? What are you doing? Everyone's crazy.
Now they've stood up for each other, and they realize that, hey, we don't have to take this crap anymore. All right, so here's where it really breaks down now with Stan. So Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny, as we mentioned, were hanging out with that Scott Malkinson unpopular kid. Despite having vowed against it, though, Stan then decides to join that trend, and he starts studying the High School Musicals intensively. The boys try to convince him otherwise, reminding him of their vow, but he counters by explaining that things are changing and that Butters is now more popular than they are. You can actually check out that clip on our TikTok. It's been up there for maybe about a month or so as I clipped from that. It's a funny scene. As he says, just think about it, you guys. Right now, Butters is way cooler than you. And then Cartman's like, that's a little bit, Stan. So the next day, this is where it breaks down. After Stan actually convinces them, telling them that Butters is way cooler than them, we get to the climax of the episode. The next day, Wendy asks Bryden where he was and explains that he was at basketball because the night before, Bryden does go play basketball, and when he does, Mr. Guillermo actually gets into it because of the crowd doing some of the sports chants, if you will, "We Will Rock You," and all those different sports chants that come along with different games or whatever sport you're listening to. So the next day, Bryden tells them that I'm not going to sing anymore. I'm just going to play basketball. So before we get to that final scene, though, let's show what happens when Mr. Guillermo finds out what goes on at a basketball arena. Of course, I was getting... All right, and that does lead us to the final scene here. So here's how the final scene finally wraps up this episode. Kyle, Kenny, Cartman, and Stan, they have succumbed to it. They have succumbed to the peer pressure, and they are going to join in on this fan. The next day, Wendy asks Bryden, as I mentioned, where he was, and explains he was at basketball. Then Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny come in, and they bust out, and they successfully perform this song with this elaborate dance routine about Bryden following his own dreams. But at this point, everyone else does not join and start singing. They're actually uninterested, and they all leave to go watch Bryden play basketball. Scott then interrupts them by telling the boys that everyone has left and that they only liked singing and dancing because Bryden was doing it. The episode ends with Stan complaining that they had put so much work into it and become good for no reason at all. Like, we just got good at this. So let's go ahead and here. I'll show a little bit of that.
Gotta do what you wanna do.
Here's Stan.
He was unhappy because he just wanted to play ball. But he finally got the courage to answer his heart's code. Just like me, all I ever wanted was to sing and dance. And now that I stood up for my dream, I finally have the chance. You gotta do what you wanna do. Even if other people don't really want you to. True, girl, you know it's true. That the thing you want to do is
So these are...
Here comes my Some kids think I'm strange because I like studying for an exam.
I want to get the part with
but I don't let that
it's not true,
me
by the way.
because it's who I am. And I like nothing better
That's not true, Cartman. That's not true, Cartman. You cannot make fun of other people like that. That's horrible. And that's the social satire and why it makes it funny. So here's the end now. Scott Malkinson interrupts.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Huh?
No one's there.
Where'd everybody go? The girls all wanted to go watch Bryden kid practice basketball.
But the girls like singing and dancing.
No, I think the girls just like that Bryden kid, no matter what he does.
But, no, we just,
wait.
No, wait. We just got good at this. Oh.
And that is actually how the episode recaps, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll be right back on the other side for a quick word from our sponsors provided by Spreaker. And we'll wrap up with some trivia, pop culture, and some knowledge. We'll be right back. Subscribe to Suck My Balls, a South Park review on Spotify, Apple's, iTunes, anywhere you want to download a podcast. Just type that in, subscribe to our feed. You'll get the latest, greatest episode each and every week. You can also listen to us on YouTube and go back and watch some videos or any of our library. It's all there. Suck My Balls, South Park review. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back on the other side now. Shout out to our sponsor there, provided by Spreaker. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you're watching right here on YouTube. Check out linktr.ee/SouthParkPod. Do me a favor. You've been listening to the show. If you download the show every week, take 30 seconds, share our podcast on your social media platform, whatever you use. Help us out. Let's grow this thing even infinitely more. SMB, a South Park Reviews. We're wrapping up episode number 183, episode number 180 for South Park. Let's get into some trivia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am not the 2022 Red Rocks Day 1 South Park Trivia Champion. I am not a trivia god, Joe Vernola, but I will do my best. Cartman rips on Scott Malkinson for having a lisp and diabetes. Kyle also has diabetes, as his mother mentioned this in the episode Cherokee Hair Tampons from Season 4. However, only Stan and Kyle know this, and as such would not mention it. Timmy Birch does not appear in Mr. Garrison's classroom in this episode. This marks the first time that Wendy kisses Stan without him barfing on her. That's actually a good call out there. Good, thanks for that knowledge there, Joe, as he sent that over. The school hall in which the kids dance in the same as the one in the Middle Park Elementary is seen in Quest for Ratings. So they use the same Middle Park Elementary, if you will, the school hall. A clip from the episode is used for Stan and Kyle's line in this show's revised theme, first shown in season 14's opener, Sexual Healing. Despite having no musical or dancing talent until the end of the episode, Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny all participated in musical scenes in South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and Kenny proved himself to be a talented opera singer, of course, in Quintuplets 2000. So they said they didn't have talent, but we've seen they do. And there's an episode of The Simpsons that is also entitled Elementary School Music. Of course, Simpsons did it. And the song playing in the background during Bryden's basketball game, as we mentioned, is Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter. We also heard a Queen's version of We Will Rock You there. And that is your trivia. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's get into some pop culture. I am not the man that brings the pain in the digital marketing game. I am not the guy that solicits those picks to get your clicks. I'm not Dane Becker, but here's some of your pop culture references. The entire episode parodies High School Musical, which is, of course, a series of movies that was produced by Disney. The Go With the Status Quo song is a parody of the High School Musical song Stick to the Status Quo. Bryden's wish to play basketball is a reversed reference to Zac Efron's High School Musical character Troy, because Troy played basketball apparently in that series and wanted to be in the school musical. The dance moves of Go With the Status Quo are taken, I guess, from the High School Musical song All for One. Didn't know. We're Together at School Again is a parody of We're All in This Together. At the end of the episode, Kyle's hair is redesigned from his normal Jufro to look like Corbin Blue's hairstyle, who played the supporting part of Chad in High School Musical. When Bryden tries to run away, his father threatens to slap him, and he says, "Go ahead, make my day," of course, is a reference to Clint Eastwood's Harry Callahan character from Sudden Impact. That I know. And the final musical number, Kenny's parka is open, showing a t-shirt with the logo of the Rolling Stones. Two more things here. In Bryden's home, there are posters of the Phantom of the Opera, Mamma Mia, and a chorus line on the wall. And finally, the song Wendy sings in the lunchroom at the beginning of the episode, Everybody is Special, resembles You Give Love a Bad Name by Bon Jovi. Here's some continuity references. Of course, I am your boy. I'm your host of The Heat, and it can't be beaten. Your guy who's higher where the air is dry, your boy, MSG. At the beginning, when Jimmy Vollmer, in response to the boys not knowing what High School Musical is, asked the boys where they've been, and Craig replied, Peru. That, of course, is referencing Pandemic and Pandemic 2, The Startling, which we reviewed, and you can go back and listen to it right here on our feed. Or watch on YouTube. Kyle is shown to be a good dancer at the end of the episode. In Rainforest Mainforest, we learned, though, he had no rhythm, and that's why he was made fun of by Cartman. However, he may have learned how to dance, as he was seen dancing in Something You Can Do With Your Finger, and of course, Helen Keller, the musical. And this is this last thing of continuity. This episode marks the first appearance of Scott Malkinson in the standard definition of the show, following the HD remaster. Scott had been seen earlier in Season 8's The Jeffersons. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your trivia, your pop culture, and your continuity. Let me give you my final thoughts on this episode. I actually enjoyed this episode a lot. I find this episode to be a very comical, grounded, funny, school-type episode with all of our boys included. There's one, centric arc, and that is the boys having to participate in this musical. And you got the side story of the quote-unquote main character of the musical, Bryden itself, going through the fact that he does not want to play music, but he's being forced into it by his father. And, of course, South Park can also point out that there could be stereotype fathers in any way, right? It doesn't matter if your son wants to be a basketball player or a thespian. If you come from the opposite strand of the spectrum, you're probably going to disagree with that and don't want your son to participate in it. Or your child, you could be a woman who feels this way too, or you could be an alien or a dolphin or non-binary, whatever you want to be. You get what I'm saying? Your kid. You may want to influence your child in a specific way because, as people have come to say, children are the offspring of the individual who created it, and sometimes they live vicariously through the kids. Now, this father, in this case, he was just a very flamboyant theater guy who tried to control people, and he tried to control his son. But Bryden fought through it and eventually overcame that. Now, of course, the comical side of this is the boys having to try and figure out whether or not they want to buy into this fad as kids, even adults, right? When it comes to technology and movies and television shows and fashion, everybody doesn't want to have FOMO, so they'll join in so they can be part of that fad. And in this case, Stan ended up coming to the conclusion that he believed this fad would continue on through high school because of a movie, but at the end of the movie, he, of course, learns his lesson that fads come and go, but also not realizing that the plan he did put in place came to fruition. He influenced Bradley to stand up to his father and get out of this musical type situation that he didn't want to be in anymore. So Stan had just been a little bit more patient. I think the groundwork that he had played there would have played out, and he would have had to join the musical situation. But as he learned, everybody didn't really care about the music. They just really liked Bryden, and they were just kind of following him because Bryden's a popular kid. And which allows Bryden to apparently just bust into any class he wants. So overall, I like this episode. I say this is definitely in one of my top 100 episodes of South Park. It does a good job of commenting on current events that were going around at the time, especially this big of a movie, this being High School Musical, and the fact that our boys had to deal with were they going to join the fad. I like Cartman ripping on Scott Malkinson throughout the episode, them introducing his character back in as kind of a another side character the boys can always link up with as they're evolving the South Park universe as they continue to grow in the series as Season 12 gets ready to wrap up. And just speaking of wrapping up, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another edition of SMB, a South Park review. I, of course, mentioned it at the top of the show, and briefly there, I'm your host, The Heat, and it can't be beat. I'm your guy who's high where the air is dry, your boy, MSG. You can follow me on Twitter at Matthew_Schaffer. I'm also represented by Danny's agency, so if you are looking for some acting, look them up, and I'm sure I can fulfill some needs for you. But ladies and gentlemen, I also want to give a shout out to my boy, the 2022 Red Rock South Park Day 1 Trivia Champion, the Trivia God, Joe Vernola. Go ahead and check out PrimosProWrestling.net. They're on Fight TV, as well as I'm sure they've got other outlets and clips you can check out on their YouTube. Every month they're in the Denver, Colorado area, and I know they've got Slave to the Death Match just coming up. More announcements on the way. Check out PrimosProWrestling.net. And of course, shout out to the man who brings the pain in the digital marketing game, the guy who solicits those picks to get your clicks, Mr. Dane Becker. He's also a director and writer and on-screen talent for Derby City Wrestling. Go ahead and check out Derby City Wrestling, as they are live every month in the Louisville, Kentucky area. They are on television in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Just check your local cable satellite broadcast partners, or they'll be on YouTube. I've usually seen it's uploaded within like a week after it airs. Let's go check out. You can follow along on the brand new episodes of Derby City Wrestling. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure here to talk South Park with you here. It's always a pleasure here to give you the rundown, the breakdown of what's going on in the world of South Park. I will be back, hopefully, with my boys next week on another edition of South Park, as it is the season finale of season 12, and it's the Ungroundable. What happens when Butters decides he's not groundable because he turns into a vampire? We'll find out next week. Coming up next week on Ungroundable, on another edition of SMB, a South Park review. See you later, folks.
Wow.